starting to regret that I stopped at
No manches, man!
As the Patterson-Gimlin film, it shows a large humanoid creature covered in dark hair.
If you hear about this creature, you're doomed. This is the legend.
Have a wish? The Hantu Galah can grant it, but it may cost you your life.
There's a cave in China where hundreds of coffins were found.
This is maybe the scariest urban legend I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. Back in the night.
Every culture has its monsters. Stories whispered in the dark that refuse to die. You couldn't pay me enough to be close to that thing. Yo, I would have stood like 1,000 feet back. Not even. Yo, I hate snakes. And anacondas that big? Nah, yo, that ain't for me. Let's go. If you haven't done so already, sub up, you go change your mind later. This is High Frequency Chaos, where we cover everything, including Bigfoot and Sasquatch.
Watch out, you better not die, you better not crash, I'm telling you why. Cause you told your wife you're at work.
What the heck is that? What the absolute heck is it? Starting to regret that I stopped at this rest stop. And they say Bigfoot isn't real? I don't ever want to stick my arm out the window. I can't believe.
And there's one over here. Looks like it's holding some water. Huh? I think it's time to go.
It's an elusive creature.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Today, we look at some of the creepiest Bigfoot encounters that were caught on camera. This alleged Bigfoot sighting has left people buzzing, and this time, it's not grainy or out of focus. It's the clearest footage we've seen yet. Filmed in the woods near Lawton, Oklahoma, the video shows what appears to be a large, hairy figure casually sitting against a tree. It's not running or hiding, just chilling. The person who captured the clip described it as the scariest moment of their life, and you can understand why. The figure's size, posture, and movement have sparked heated debates online. Is it really the elusive Sasquatch or just someone in an elaborate costume? Adding to the intrigue is the location. Lawton is a military town near Fort Sill, which only fuels speculation about what's really out there. Could this be a legitimate Bigfoot sighting? Or is it another Halloween prank gone viral? Either way, the eeriness of the clip and the sheer possibility of it being real make it one of the creepiest encounters caught on camera yet. The footage from Bluff Creek, California, filmed on October 2, 1967, remains one of the most iconic and widely debated pieces of Bigfoot evidence ever recorded.
Oh my god, no, fuck that.
dive into urban legends. Every culture has its own way of explaining the unexplainable. Tales that warn, terrify, or haunt. We begin our journey east, where some of the most chilling stories are still told today. In Japan, ghost stories don't always stay in the grave.
We need to talk about what happened to Saki. Saki was a girl from Japan who was born with an eye deformity, causing her to have one eye that's much larger than the other. Because of this, she was constantly bullied and often kept her face covered behind her long hair. But eventually, Saki couldn't take the bullying anymore, so she went to the top of an abandoned building with a large rope. Allegedly, as she fell down, the rope yanked on her head, which means even though her body was discovered by authorities, her head was never found. After this, Saki's mother vowed to get revenge for her, beginning with a message she sent to everyone in Saki's school, saying anyone who didn't share her daughter's story was guilty for her death and deserved to be punished. And weirdly, within a few days, multiple students from Saki's school passed away mysteriously, found with their heads torn off of their bodies exactly like Saki. So police arrested Saki's mother, thinking she must be responsible, until another student from Saki's school finally told the truth. In the middle of the night, she woke up to a strange sound. When she looked up, she saw a girl staring at her from her window with one large eye. Realizing this was Saki, the girl immediately sent her story to someone else, and that's how she found out the only way to free yourself from Saki's curse is to pass it on. So send the story to someone else and follow for more.
Japanese mythical beings you never knew existed. It's late at night and you're in a public bathroom. You're finished doing your business when you realize there's no toilet paper. Lucky for you, a figure comes up to your stall and asks if you want red paper or blue paper. What a weird question, but he's your only hope at having a clean bottom. You say red paper. He busts in and slices you up until you're drenched in your own blood. Rewind. You say blue paper, and he busts in and strangles you until you're blue in the face. This figure is called akamanto, or red cloak in English. And asking for different colored paper besides the red or blue that he offers will result in him dragging you to hell. Asking for yellow paper in particular will have him drowning you in the toilet. The only way to beat him is to simply ignore him. He'll walk away eventually. You'll still have no toilet paper, but at least you're alive. Here's Akamanto and Hanako-san. Like for more content about Japanese mythical beings, bye!
If you hear about this creature, you're doomed. This is the legend of Teke-Teke. The story goes that many years ago, a Japanese girl tragically got stuck on train tracks and was split in half by an oncoming train. In her final moments after this accident, she cried out to help to anyone walking by, but nobody stopped to help. And now her vengeful spirit roams the train yards and the streets of Japan, seeking revenge against humanity. And it's said that even though she no longer has her lower half, she's incredibly strong and moves around with her hands and elbows. And as she skitters around, her nails make this tick-tick-tick sound, hence the name. Now, if you see Teke-Teke and you think you can outrun her, you're out of luck. Because according to legend, Teke-Teke can run so fast that she can keep up with speeding cars. And if you do hear about Teke-Teke, you become cursed, and within 3 days, she'll appear within your dreams, or you'll get a random phone call. She'll give you a riddle and ask, do you need your legs? If you answer right, maybe she'll leave you alone. But if the answer's wrong, she'll find you and slice you in half, stealing your legs for her own. But what do you think? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know what you want to hear about next.
Japanese mythical beings you never knew existed. This one honestly scares me so much. In between your bed and nightstand, the gap between your door and the floor, in between your cabinets and the fridge, she's there, watching you. Tsukima Onna is the gap woman. She peers out to you from in between the gaps in your home. At any given time, you can look into a gap, any gap, and you'll see her staring back at you. There's no gap too small for Tsukima Onna. Some say that if you happen to meet her gaze, she'll drag you off to another dimension. Others say that she'll confine you to your house indefinitely, unable to leave to buy food, work, or even move from the spot you're sitting. The only way to avoid this is by sealing every gap in your home. It's not very practical, and there's no guarantee you'll seal every crack. It's just a way to buy time until the inevitable. That's all for today. See you next time. Bye!
Alright, so imagine that you have to seal up every gap or be afraid to walk in front of gaps. I don't know. I would be, well, I don't get terrified, right? I pray in Yeshua's name against all these spirits and these urban legends. But have you heard of these folklores or urban legends so far?
Have you ever heard of the Malaysian urban legend of the Langsuir? The Langsuir is a prominent supernatural figure in Malaysian folklore. It is a female vampire-like creature believed to be the spirit of a woman who died tragically during pregnancy or childbirth. The legend of the Langsuir is deeply rooted in Malaysian culture and has been passed down through generations. According to the folklore, the Langsuir is said to have long disheveled hair, sharp claws, and a pale ghostly appearance. It possesses the ability to shapeshift into a beautiful woman to attract its victims. It is believed to be a seductive entity that preys on young men, especially those who are vulnerable and easily enticed by its charms. The Langsuir sustains itself by feeding on the blood of infants and young children. It is believed to have the ability to fly and often targets households with newborns or pregnant women. The presence of the Langsuir is associated with misfortune, illness, and death in the affected households. To protect against the Langsuir, various rituals and amulets are used. These may include placing thorny branches or sharp objects around the house, reciting protective prayers, or wearing charms believed to repel the creature. Additionally, certain herbs and traditional remedies are taught to offer protection against the Langsuir's supernatural powers. The legend of the Langsuir serves as a cautionary tale, emphasizing the consequences of forbidden desires and the dangers of succumbing to temptation. It also reflects cultural beliefs surrounding the supernatural and the importance of safeguarding against malevolent spirits.
Have a wish? The Hantu Galah can grant it, but it may cost you your life. The Hantu Galah translates to pole ghost in English. It is a tall Malaysian ghost that lives deep in the dark forest. It is said to be so tall its head can touch the sky, and the more you walk towards it, the taller it gets. And if you make direct eye contact with it, your nap will snack due to its extreme height. The Hantu Galah can answer any question you present to it, but first you must go deep into the forest late at night. It must be pitch black, so you'll need matches to light your way. Also bring fruit offerings to appease the Hantu Galah. First, ask your question to the Hantu Galah. He will not answer your question at first, but be persistent and continue to ask. As you ask, you will see a young boy peeking out at you. Continue to ask, and the boy will grow taller and taller to the size of a grown man. Continue to ask your question. The Hantu Galah has almost appeared. Out of nowhere, you'll see 2 tree trunks standing next to you, and that is the Hantu Galah. Ask your question one last time. What happens next is unclear. If the Hantu Galah is feeling kind, he will answer your question. If not, he will crush you in between his wooden legs. That's all for today. Like for more content about mythical creatures. Bye!
Alright, what do you think so far? Now we're about to head into India.
This is a true horrifying story, part 80. This story took place in Tamil Nadu, Tanjavur in South India. Nisha, a 12-year-old girl back in 1998. Nisha, her sister, and her parents are based in London. However, they visit India on a yearly basis to visit their family. They have a big house, the biggest house in this whole village. In 1998, they took a trip from London to India for a family visit, and they stayed in their big house. Just a piece of info, in India, women commonly wear a form of jewelry that is an anklet on their feet, and it makes a jingly noise. One day, while the family was in India, the father had to fly back to London for very urgent work. So the mother and her 2 daughters decided to stay longer. Since it was only the 3 of them, they all slept together in the living room downstairs. The night the father left, at 11 p.m., Nisha fell asleep. The mother and Nisha's sister were awake watching TV. They heard these anklet noises, the anklet I told you about. But none of the girls were wearing any anklets on their feet. The sound came from the staircase. It sounded loud and clear, as if a woman was slowly walking down the staircase, coming closer and closer. The mother and her daughters froze in fear, and not one word was uttered. Nisha's mom got up and went closer to the anklet noises to see who it was. She saw a strange outline of a woman, but it wasn't human. She came back to the girls, and from the immense fear and shock, she couldn't tell them what she saw. Since that day, Nisha's mom was never the same, and she still cannot describe what that thing was exactly. 15 years later, Nisha eventually gets married and has her own child. In 2013, from London, Nisha flew to India and she went to that same house. Every time she steps foot in that house, only at night, the jinn with the anklet decides to haunt her. Sometimes the noises are fast, as if someone is dancing, and sometimes they are slow. However, this noise is still there, and it haunts them every single night. Eventually, the father built a wall in front of the staircase to make his family finally sleep in peace. But the only downside of this wall was you will never be able to see the beautiful staircase they had. But ever since 1998, no one has ever been upstairs. When a property is abandoned for this long, other beings will take your property. And just like Nisha's house, there is a presence of a jinn that likes anklets, that does not want to be disturbed.
Alright, let's head to China's capital.
There's a cave in China where hundreds of coffins were found. Rumors say that vampire ancestors are in a deep sleep, and if you open the coffins, you'll break the curse and awaken the dead. But this isn't actually the case, and the real reason why those coffins are there might surprise you. You see, in ancient times, people that lived in the city of Anshun, China, moved over into the mountainy regions in order to avoid war. Their beliefs were that by placing a coffin high up in a mountain, it would be closer to heaven. Then by letting the wooden coffins rot away, the souls would successfully cross over.
Did you know Sister Hong? This is a true story. His real name is Zhao. He's 38 years old and lives in Nanjing, China. But online, he became known as Sister Hong, a man who dressed as a woman, using heavy makeup, wigs, silicone prosthetics, and even voice modulation to appear as the perfect woman on dating apps. Plan? To lure men into his home and secretly record everything without them noticing. And the most disturbing part, he sold those videos in private groups for money. Many men showed up thinking they were meeting a woman. And even after realizing it was a man, they still went through with it. The scandal exploded when wives and family members began recognizing faces in the videos. It made headlines around the world. Over 1,000 men were exposed, and the case became global news. Sister Hong was arrested and charged with distributing obscene content and violating the privacy of his victims. The case became a warning about deception, privacy, and the hidden dangers of the internet.
What started as a flirt ended with thousands of lives shattered, careers ruined, families torn apart. And one question left in the air, how many more are out there? Masked, waiting, watching?
From now on, pay closer attention to who you match with on dating apps.
Have you heard of the mysterious creature that killed over 100 people in France? So the Beast of Gévaudan was a creature that to this day nobody knows what it really was. It terrorized a small farming village called Gévaudan in 1700s France, where it was said to have killed upwards of 100 people. It was described as looking something like this or like this. The attacks got so bad that the King of France even sent out his royal gun bearer and hunting expert to go out and kill the beast after so many failed attempts, but even he could not slay the beast. However, it was later killed by an unlikely peasant who became a hero to all those who were terrorized. This real monster story is so interesting, and if you want to hear more, I just did a longer video on my YouTube channel. Link in the bio, go check it out.
There's a pub in East London where history didn't just happen. It bled through the walls. It's called the 10 Bells, and it's been standing in Spitalfield since at least 1752, possibly longer. But what gives it its dark reputation isn't how old it is. It's who drank there. In the late 1880s, Mary Jane Kelly and Annie Chapman, two of Jack the Ripper's victims, were known regulars. Some say Mary Kelly met her killer here. Others believe Annie Chapman had her last drink in this very building. Upstairs, the second floor was once used by Victorian sex workers. The original wallpaper still clings to the walls. It's faded now, but if you look closely, the 19th century floral pattern is still there. A quiet reminder of lives long forgotten. Here's where it gets even darker. In 1976, someone had the bright idea to rename the pub the Jack the Ripper. It was meant to attract tourists. It worked, but it also backfired. Locals and historians slammed it as grotesque. After years of backlash, the owners quietly changed the name back to the 10 Bells in the 80s. Want something even fewer people know? During renovations, they uncovered Victorian tiles that had been hidden for over a century, original details from when the Ripper roamed these streets. Staff have reported sudden cold spots, bottles falling off shelves, even the sound of a woman crying upstairs when no one's there. And across the road, the bells of Christchurch Spitalfields once rang to warn women to stay inside during the height of the killings. That's where the pub gets its name, the 10 Bells. Today there's a small plaque inside honoring the murdered women. It's easy to miss, just names. No drama, no gore. The 10 Bells is still pulling pints like it has for 270 years. But once you know what happened there, and who may still linger, it's hard to see it as just a pub. Would you go in?
Did you know that goblins once ruled the deepest places of the earth? Long before kingdoms rose, before iron touched stone, they lived beneath the roots of the oldest forests. In tunnels no human dared enter. They were not mischievous, they were monstrous. Sharp claws, hollow eyes, skin like whetstone, and voices that mimicked the cries of lost children, luring wanderers into the dark. Miners who dug too deep would vanish overnight. Their tools returned, melted and twisted. Villages built near goblin paths found livestock drained of blood, and bones arranged like warnings. Once, a warlord tried to burn their tunnels. His men never returned, only their heads, stacked neatly in his throne room by morning. Ancient maps mark these cursed lands with no words, only symbols. A crooked crown, a black spiral, a pair of slitted eyes. It was said that goblins worshipped something older than gods, a buried presence that still whispers through the stone. Some believe they vanished, others say they only went deeper, and when night falls in forgotten woods, some claim you can still hear it. Tiny feet on wet earth, stone shifting underground, and the sound of whispering in a voice that sounds just like your own. Whatever you do, don't answer back.
So what are your thoughts so far on these urban legends? And for those of you who resides in those countries, let me know. Are some of these legends true? Have you heard of them? And have you seen any of them? Now let's head back to the United States. And we're going to start off with the Native American folklore. It gets creepy from here. Very creepy. Let's go.
Native legends you might not know, and buckle up because this is a dark one. This is the legend of Walking Sam. This is a very dark and sinister spirit that, in my opinion, is very similar to another entity known as the Hat Man, which is for another video, but they seem to be very similar in appearance, such as being tall and dark as midnight, extremely thin, and wearing a top hat. What makes Walking Sam different is when he raises his arms, you can see that he carries the souls of the men and women who have fallen victim to him. His eerie whistling can be heard deep in the woods or sometimes in very unlit areas as a warning sign, and that's how he gets into his victims' heads. Once he does, many say they hear voices and whispers in their heads, making them feel worthless and unable to bear the hardships of life. Due to the horrible living conditions or circumstances such as generational trauma that the natives go through, it is he who targets them and are more impressionable, and some eventually give into that dark calling, giving him another victim to add to his coat. The elders would always tell us to always take care of one another and to check in with each other to make sure that the evil and dark spirits never have a reason to visit. That's why community and family are very important, or even doing something that makes you happy, like taking care of yourself and your mental health, which is very important. So if you want to join the community here and learn more about Walking Sam and other native legends, be sure to join my YouTube and podcast at Sacred Cree. Take care. This story is for the men out there. Growing up, I was always told about the legend of the Deer Woman. In Native American folklore, they say that the Deer Woman is the most beautiful woman you'll ever see. Her dancing is like no other, and her brown eyes are so hypnotic you won't be able to look away. One of her favorite things to do is dance, and she's often seen at the powwow dancing well into the night until the very last drum beat. Legends vary from tribe to tribe, but it is said that sometimes she goes unnoticed, and other times when someone sees her, they get scared because they see her feet and her legs. They look like deer hoofs and deer feet, and they get scared, and the men are often not so lucky because they get lured over by her beauty, over to her location deep in the woods where she stomps them to death. The legends say that the young woman was attacked by a group of vicious men,
and then left to pass on. The spirit saw this and sent a fawn to comfort the girl as she spent her last moments on earth. She was reborn as the deer woman, and she took vengeance on the men who assaulted her. Her story is often used as an example, especially to men. She is a powerful, shape-shifting spirit and a protector of women and children. She can be banished by the use of tobacco and chant, and I've also heard you can break her spell by looking at her feet, which are hoofs. Like I said, the hoofs and the legs. Once they see that, the spell is broken. And when she is recognized for what she is, she will run away. She can be seen as a good or bad omen depending on who you are and how you treat women and children. If you like my videos, then be sure to like and follow my page and my YouTube and my podcast at Sacred Creek. Native legends you might not know. The legend of the Stick Indians. Stick people are so feared that most natives who believe in them won't even speak their names out of fear of conjuring or insulting them. Physically, their description changes from tribe to tribe, but most say they're extremely dangerous forest spirits and are described as large, mossy, slender-like creatures depending on their surroundings. They almost look like eerie trees themselves but have glowing eyes. They are known to be very hot-tempered and mischievous. Their stick nickname possibly comes from the joy they derive from poking sticks at and in teepees. One thing about the Stick Indians is if you're a good person lost in the woods, they will guide him or her to safety, whereas a bad person will be led deeper into the forest. They will also lead the bad people astray by making sounds of whistling or laughing like children in the woods at night. Legend says it doesn't take much to set them off. They can drive people insane, kidnap them, kidnap their children, or simply devour them. They also take aggressive revenge against people who injure or disrespect them, even if it's done unintentionally. It is their most defining feature. No matter how small, they will bear a grudge. And if you like videos like this, be sure to like and follow my YouTube and podcast at Sacred Cree, where I tell all sorts of spooky stories.
In North Carolina, the Cherokee people tell a story about a giant whose claw marks are still visible today. They called him Sul Kalu, the slant-eyed giant, and he was a fearsome spirit of the wilderness who demanded respect. See, the Cherokee were hunters, and they would go into the forest to hunt. But they had to be careful not to anger Sul Kalu. If they did, he would make their lives miserable. He could turn the trees against them, making them into snares and traps, or he would send bears and wolves to attack them. But there was one place where Sul Kalu's power was most evident: Judaculla Rock. It was here that the Cherokee would leave offerings for the giant, hoping to appease him. And it worked. For hundreds of years, the Cherokee people avoided this rock monolith, believing that Sul Kalu's spirit still lived within it. And to this day, nobody has been able to fully explore the rock. There are too many carvings, too many shapes and symbols that we just can't understand. Some say they feel dizzy or sick when they look at the rock. Others say they can feel the giant's presence watching them. So if you ever visit Judaculla Rock, be respectful. Don't stay too long. And whatever you do, don't touch the rock. You never know what secrets it might hold.
Native legends you might not know. The legend of the little people. I've noticed all around the world, almost every culture and every tribe has their own version and names for them. Here is what I was told about the little people growing up, is that they are small spirits that look like little versions of us. They are very mischievous and love to play tricks like hiding things on people, and are drawn to shiny items, and they will sometimes maybe even leave behind some gifts for you if they like you. Other things I've heard is that they might even take you or your children away if found alone in the woods late at night, or if the child is not being properly taken care of. Sometimes if a child comes across them, they will make them promise if they don't tell anyone that they saw them, they will one day come back and help them. I'll be doing a more in-depth dive into the legends of the little people, as well as my very own experience. So if you like videos like this, be sure to like and follow my page, my YouTube and podcast at Sacred Cree, where I tell all sorts of spooky, scary stories and legends. See you there.
Now, I've heard of the little people, In Trinidad, they call them the Duendes. There's a legend of the Duende, a small mischievous spirit said to walk with their feet turned backwards, so you can never track where they really go. And I see the similarities all across the globe, and we're going to dive more into that. And these Duendes, they would steal children and babies, newborn babies. So when the parents try to go after them to find their kids, they can never track them because of their backward feet. Alright, how many of you know what a Duende is? I've heard of some similarity of it. Let's keep diving.
So let me hear it. It's a Mexican urban legend about duendes. It's this story. It took place in Michoacan. There was this musician, right? He was with his band or whatever. They were playing, right? He ended up going home, but he had to go through a little shortcut. So he would go into the woods. And he saw these duendes dancing. And they looked at him and they saw him and they were like, yo, you, come, play for us and we'll give you a bunch of gold. Because they saw that he had an instrument on him. He's like, I bet, whatever. He started playing. When they finished, they gave him the gold. He was going back to his house. He knocked on the door and his wife literally looked at him like, what the f? In shock. You look different? She was like, yo, I thought you were dead. You've been gone for so long. Where have you been? Where have you been all these years? She had kids with his best friend. Like, they were big and stuff. It's like, I was only gone for an hour. Like, I was with these duendes and I was playing for them. What are you talking about? They gave me all this gold. And then they're like, what gold? Those are a bunch of pesos. They're not even real gold coins. He's like, fuck, bro. So like, time for duendes are like different than human time. So later.
In Mexican folklore, duendes are gnome-like creatures that are sometimes mischievous, sometimes protective, and sometimes evil. The word duende is Spanish for goblin. Most creatures are described as small, like a child, but with an old man's face. Some can disappear at will, and some will camouflage into a full-sized old man. It is said if an old man asks you for food or a little money, it could be a duende. If you don't pay the ask, there will be chaos. Maybe your crops won't grow or your car will break down. Mostly they're causing mischief, but there can be danger. The duende seem to be attached to certain natural areas, but can be coaxed to leave with proper gifts and respect. Duendes do have a particular affinity for children though. Unlike other folklore stories that are often used to scare or frighten away children, duendes were seen as protectors. If a child was ever afraid or lost, children were encouraged to call out to duendes for guidance. Although they could be both mischievous and kind towards adults with the flip of a switch, it seems they were always kind towards children.
Remember when I told you about duendes? I told you that many people have heard of these things. They are just known by different names. Gnomes, sprites, leprechauns, pygmies, fairies, or dwarfs. But to the indigenous peoples of North America, they are known as the little people. Tribal legends told by elders spoke of a race of these little people who lived in the woods near sandy hills and sometimes in rocks located along large bodies of water, such as the Great Lakes. In some stories, they are often described as hairy-faced dwarves, and in ancient petroglyph illustrations, they are depicted with horns on their head and travel in a group of 5 to 7, sometimes in a canoe. Native legends often speak of the little people playing pranks on people, such as singing and then hiding when a person searches for the music. Sometimes they will hide objects from humans, such as car keys, and you will search all over for them, knowing exactly where you left them, but they are not there. Later on, you'll find them in a spot they should not be at all. Many times it was told that the little people loved children and would take them away from bad parents. Other legends say that if a little person was seen by an adult human, they would beg them not to reveal anything about their existence. And if that human kept the secret for the little person, they would then be rewarded in times of need. From tribe to tribe, there are variations of what these little people's mannerisms were like, and whether or not they were good or evil. One of the common beliefs, however, is that the little people create distractions to cause mischief, and their existence has been documented almost to the beginning of time. Hundreds of years ago, Lewis and Clark reported in their expedition journals that Native Americans believed that these little people lived in nearby caves. They wrote of a tribe in the vicinity of Spirit Mound, South Dakota, that held a belief that the little people inhabited a mound nearby. Clark wrote that no member of the tribe could be persuaded to even approach the mound because they feared that these tiny devils, as they called them, were considered to be very dangerous. The compilation of video clips that you have just seen are all alleged sightings of these little people that were captured on film. And 2 of them, including this one, were filmed on a Native American reservation in Canada. No matter what these beings are, most languages in the world have a word to describe them. And legends about their existence are a common theme throughout cultures around the globe. So tell me, what are your stories of the little people?
I know a lot of you might think that some of these are far-fetched, but I remember hearing countless stories about the Duendes from Trinidad. My cousins used to tell me this story all the time, and it terrified me. Alright, so now we're about to dive into the Mothman. And stay tuned because we still have to dive into Slender Man. Alright, let's go.
Mothman, friendly warning or agent of chaos. From 1966 to 1967, many West Virginians saw this creature prior to the Silver Bridge collapse that killed 46 people. After the disaster, there have been no credible sightings of the Mothman in Point Pleasant. However, it seems that the Mothman has gone global because people have witnessed a large winged creature before tragedies in several different countries. On September 10, 1978 in Freiburg, Germany, a Mothman-like creature scared away miners shortly before the mine collapsed. There, they called him the Freiburg Shrieker. He was also seen in April 1986 near the power plant in Chernobyl right before the reactor blew. In 1999, a Russian UFOologist reported that the Mothman was seen in Moscow before the Russian apartment bombings. Some say he was sighted in New York before the terrorist attacks on 9/11. And again on August 1st, 2007, when the bridge on Interstate 35 in Minneapolis, Minnesota failed, killing 13. The residents of La Junta, Chihuahua claimed to see the creature before the Mexican swine flu outbreak of 2009. Also, he was seen in Japan before the 2011 tsunami. The most recent sighting of the Mothman that I could find was in Chicago in 2019 at the Chicago O'Hare International Airport on Thursday, September the 24th. So this really begs the question, is he a benign creature trying to warn us of these events, or is he causing the events? It really boils down to your own beliefs, so please let me know in the comments, friend or foe.
Supposedly taken by a man who says he was driving along State Highway 2 in Point Pleasant, saw something jump from tree to tree, so he pulled off the road to take these pictures. The man declined an on-camera interview, but is adamant the pictures are real.
Mira.
No te pases de lanza.
¿Estás viendo?
Sí.
Mira. Ahí lo tiene, Naomi.
Mira.
Mira.
No mames,
Mira.
ve.
No mames, ve. ¿Ve eso? Mames, eso está bien cabrón.
No manches, pa. No, 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 no. Mira. Ay, Dios mío. Dios mío, Dios mío, Dios mío.
No te pases de lanza.
Mira. Ay, no, 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 no. Ve. Ay, Dios mío, ve. No manches, ve.
Mira.
Ay, Dios mío de mi vida. No te pases de lanza, ve.
La bestia. ¿Qué es esa madre? Mira. ¿Cómo le está haciendo Naomi? Hay que pasarle por encima. Le pasaría por encima, pero está el señor ahí.
Señor. No te pases.
Miren.
Alright, so I have a few more urban legends to show you, and then we're gonna wrap this up. Let's go.
In 2014, a nursery rhyme started circulating online, and people believed that if you said it out loud, you could conjure something evil. There was a crooked man, and he walked a crooked mile. That's the first line, and it might just be a harmless children's rhyme. But what if I told you that it was actually connected to a real demon? The entity is called the Crooked Man, and once you invite him in, he doesn't just haunt you. He warps everything around you. People think that he was just made up for the Conjuring films, but actually, in demonology, there's stories of a twisted man who mimics your voice, who shows up when your world is falling apart. And these stories have been told for decades. People describe seeing him in corners where shadows bend wrong, your clocks stop working, your mirror reflects things that aren't there. And here's where things get dark. There's a ritual that people claim that you can do. You recite the rhyme 3 times. I'm not going to show you the rhyme. I don't want to be involved in that. But the last time you say the rhyme, you stretch the word smile. There was a crooked man who smiled a crooked smile. Y'all are going to kill me in the comments for that one. That's when people say that he appears. Not in full, but just his silhouette. First in the background of videos, then behind your shower curtain. First in the background of videos you take, or behind your shower curtain. If he doesn't lunge, he waits, and he watches. One girl on Reddit said that she tried doing this during a sleepover. She laughed it off, but over the next week, everyone who was there started seeing the same thing. A tall man bending in impossible angles, always in doorways, never moving, but always closer than before. She said the last time she saw him, he was crouched behind her bedroom door, smiling. Her account ends there and her username was deleted. But people tracked the post back and they found that her location was in Essex. And then a month later, a man reported waking up to scratches forming on his arms. And where, you ask? In Essex. So another thing that people are wondering is if the Crooked Man is a tulpa, which is a kind of urban legend that becomes true through belief. Because here's the scariest part. People don't even summon him to get haunted. They summon him to end things. Like they say, if you're ready to lose everything, your house, your mind, your family, just smile a crooked smile and say the word. So now I have to ask, would you try the Crooked Man rhyme? Or have you already? Comment below what you would do if you saw him in the mirror, because running doesn't work. Whatever you do, don't smile a crooked smile back. Come over here for more scary stories.
This is maybe the scariest urban legend I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. Back in the 1970s, there was this terrifying fun house in Long Beach, California called the Laugh-in-the-Dark. And there was always this urban legend that all the mannequins inside were fake, except for one. Also, mind you, this is what this week's episode is about, so if you don't want spoilers, just listen to the episode. This urban legend came to be because there was one mannequin inside that just looked wrong. All of the other ones looked fake, but this one in particular looked way too human. And a bunch of the kids also said the area that the mannequin was in just smelled really, really bad. So a few years go by, and one day a film crew comes in and is using Laugh-in-the-Dark for a film set. The director's lining up a shot, and he just doesn't like the way this one mannequin looks in frame. So he goes over to a crew member and he's like, hey, can you just move this out of the shot? So the crew member goes over and starts moving the mannequin when its arm pops off. And inside of the mannequin's arm is human bone. The kids had been totally right. The mannequin was a mummified body. There's so much more to this story, like who the person was and how they got there, and I talk about the whole thing this week on the episode.
They say if he's still eating when the sun dies, he'll come eat you. He don't knock, don't speak, just appears, right when the light gives up, like him waiting behind your eyes for the moment you forgot to be afraid. They call him the 6 o'clock man. Tall, still, face like wet paper stretched over a smile that ain't his. They say he wears a suit like he's headed to church. My grandmama used to say, don't leave no food on the table after 6, don't eat alone, and never ever turn your back to the dough. But I did. I poured a glass of wine, laughed at old warnings, ate like nothing in this world could touch me. Then the house went quiet, Didn't see or meant to. Didn't need to. He was already there. Long fingers tapped the table, and that smile, like he'd been hungry a long time. They say the 6 o'clock man don't want your food. He come to eat what's still warm, what's still moving. And if he finds pride at that table, he eats that too.
Everyone thinks that the Slender Man is this made-up thing, but even before it was given a name, people have made reference to this very tall, pale-like entity often seen dwelling in the woods. Now, the Native Americans, they had something called Stickman. And in Eastern Asia, they speak of something called the Hungry Ghost. And all across the world, there is reference to this very tall, skinny, pale white entity that seems to lure people into the woods. Now, there was this man named Chris. Chris said when he was younger, he grew up in this very small town. And he befriended this kid named Philip. Now, he said Philip was kind of this odd boy. He didn't talk that much. He was very reserved, and he would get scared very easily. So he said him and this boy Philip and a couple other kids, they would hang out at this park in town, which sat up against the woods. He said one day they were all out playing tag, and that's when he noticed Philip was gone. And so he kind of started searching for him. And eventually he sees Philip. Philip is up against the woods, standing there, looking directly into it. And he's talking to someone. And Chris is kind of like, that's odd. Like, who is he talking to? So he goes over to him, and he's like, hey, Philip, are you all right? Is everything okay? And he goes, yeah, I'm fine. And he goes, well, who are you talking to? And he said, oh, that's just my friend. And he said, but there's no one here. And he goes, yeah, he had to leave. But I see him from time to time, and he lives in the woods. And he thought, that was strange. Well, he said several other times they'd be playing with Philip, and they'd be near the woods or something. And he would always disappear over to the woods and start having conversation with someone who wasn't there. And he said it started to just get really weird. So he decided he was going to press Philip more about who this person was. And he said that's when he told him. He said, many years ago, I met this man in the woods. He said he's very tall, he's skinny, he has pale white skin, he doesn't have a face, and he wears this black suit and tie, and he has a top hat. And he said he calls himself Mr. Nobody. And, he often comes and tells me about his adventures in the woods and meeting other people. And he says one day, I can go with him on an adventure. And he's like, well, like if there's some strange guy talking to you in the woods, like you should stay away from him. Like that's kind of weird. And he's like, oh, no, Mr. Nobody is, my friend. So he said one night they had this huge sleepover, and Philip comes over, and Chris said they started to tell like these scary stories. And they said all of a sudden, Philip started screaming, and he said, just like, stop, please stop. And they go, why? Why don't you want us to tell scary stories? Are you afraid or something? And he's like, no, Mr. Nobody doesn't like us telling these stories. He doesn't want us to tell these stories anymore. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, there is no Mr. Nobody. Like, he's not here. And he goes, yeah, he's here. He is looking at us through the window. And that's when Chris looked directly out the window. And he said, standing by a tree, he sees this very tall man in a black suit and tie, black hat, and he couldn't see his face. And he said he was there for a brief second, and then he disappeared behind like a tree. And he said on many other occasions, from time to time, he would get a quick glimpse of this guy, and he would always be near his friend Philip. And then one day he said his friend Philip, they moved away, him and his family. And several years later, he was talking to someone, and they told him that Philip disappeared, and his family had no idea what happened to him. And he said still to this day, he is like a missing persons case. They never found this young boy. And so he often wondered, did he have an encounter with the Slender Man?
All right, so what are your thoughts so far on all these urban legends that we covered? We went across the globe, we touched the surface there, and we came back to America. And we dove a little deep there, and there's so many more urban legends to go through. which legend haunts your hometown? Let me know in the comments. And for those of you who have your own story of dealing with any of these entities, please, as always, share. Alright, thank you for being here with me as we do these deep dives. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and it's so awesome the fact that we're growing. Yo, we hit 50K. That is dope. That's because of each and every one of you. And for the new ones who are coming into the tribe, welcome to the chaos. Alright, HFC, signing out. Peace!